Bullies torment the quiet new kid. They regret it when he unleashes his hidden power. The fluorescent lights of Westridge High School buzzed overhead as Miguel Alvarez kept his head down, navigating the crowded hallway. At 15, he was shorter than most boys his age, with a softness around his middle that made his uniform shirt cling in ways he hated. His round face, framed by unruly black curls, was fixed in what had become his permanent expression. Eyes averted, lips pressed together, shoulders hunched as if perpetually bracing for impact. It was Miguel's third week at Westridge, having moved from a small town after his mother's job transfer. 3 weeks was more than enough time for the school's hierarchy to identify him as prey, too quiet, too different, too easy. What nobody at Westridge knew was that for the past 7 years, Miguel had trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under his uncle Carlos, a former champion. Back home, Miguel had even competed in regional tournaments, earning respect despite his unassuming appearance. But here, in this new place, he was starting fresh. His mother had encouraged him to focus on academics and making friends. No fights, she had said firmly. We need this fresh start. So Miguel kept his talent hidden, enduring whatever came, his way with gritted teeth and clenched fists. Well, look who it is. The voice sliced through the hallway chatter, causing Miguel's shoulders to tense instinctively. Dominic Chase, a junior with broad shoulders and a perpetual smirk, leaned against a row of lockers. At his side stood his two shadows, Tyler Reed, tall and wiry with a buzz cut, and Marcus Evans, stocky with a reddish complexion that darkened when he laughed at Dominic's jokes. Miguel pretended not to hear, quickening his pace toward math class. Hey, I'm talking to you, Pudge. Dominic pushed off the lockers, stepping directly into Miguel's path. The surrounding students slowed, some stopping completely. The scent of potential drama was in the air, and no one wanted to miss it. Just keep walking. Don't engage. Remember what Mum said about starting fresh. Are you deaf as well as dumb? Dominic reached out, shoving Miguel's shoulder hard enough to make him stumble. Miguel caught himself, his training automatically adjusting his stance for balance. He looked up finally, meeting Dominic's eyes. I need to get to class. Ooh, it speaks, Marcus chortled, circling to Miguel's left. Tyler moved to the right, completing the triangle that trapped Miguel against the wall of lockers. What's the rush, new kid? Math can wait. We're just being friendly, getting to know our new classmate. Miguel felt his heart rate increase, not from fear, but from the effort of restraint. His uncle's voice echoed in his mind. Control is everything. A fighter who loses control has already lost. His eyes darted around, noting the positions of all 3 boys, calculating distances and angles out of habit. Nothing to say? Dominic moved closer, his breath hot on Miguel's face. Maybe you need help finding your voice. In one quick motion, Dominic knocked the books from Miguel's arms, sending them scattering across the hallway floor. Laughter erupted from the growing audience of students. Even a passing teacher merely sighed, called out a half-hearted, "Get to class, all of you," and continued walking. Miguel knelt to gather his books, his face burning. As he reached for his math textbook, Tyler's foot came down on it. "Not so fast," Tyler grinned. "Say, please, may I have my book, sir?" Miguel looked up, silent defiance in his eyes. "You heard him," Dominic said, crouching down to Miguel's level. "Beg for it." For a moment, Miguel's control slipped. His hand moved toward Tyler's ankle. One quick sweep and the tall boy would be on the floor. But he caught himself. Not here. Not now. Not for this. "Please," Miguel said flatly, the word tasting bitter. The 3 bullies exchanged looks of triumph. Tyler removed his foot and Miguel quickly gathered his remaining books, rising to his feet. "This was fun," Dominic said, stepping aside. "See? You at lunch, Pudge?" Miguel hurried away, the sound of their laughter following him down the hall. In math class, he sat at the back, barely hearing the teacher's voice over the thunder of his own heartbeat. Under his desk, his hands practiced the movements, grips, sweeps, submissions, invisible to anyone watching, but precise in their execution. One day, he thought, but not today. Lunch was its own special kind of torment. The Westridge cafeteria was a cavernous space with long tables arranged in neat rows, the social hierarchy clearly defined by who sat where. Miguel had found a spot at the far end of a table populated mostly by freshmen who ignored him, which was exactly what he wanted. He was halfway through his sandwich when a shadow fell across his tray. "This seat taken?" Dominic didn't wait for an answer before sliding onto the bench across from Miguel. Tyler and Marcus flanked him, creating a wall of unwanted company. Miguel said nothing, focusing on his food. Still playing mute, Dominic reached across, plucking an apple from Miguel's tray. He took a loud, deliberate bite. Delicious. You don't mind sharing, right? What are friends for? A few tables away, a girl with braided hair and glasses caught Miguel's eye. For a moment, it seemed like she might say something, do something, but then she looked away just like everyone else. You know, Dominic continued, I've been thinking. You're new here, so maybe you don't know how things work. Let me explain. He leaned forward. There's a fee for new students. Call it a processing charge. Miguel finally looked up. What? He speaks. Marcus laughed. It's simple. You give us your lunch money for the rest of the month and we make sure nobody bothers you. Except us? Tyler added with a grin. Miguel's jaw tightened. No. The single word hung in the air between them. Dominic's smirk faltered for a split second before returning, harder than before. No? Did you just say no to me? His voice had dropped, losing its playful edge. Miguel met his gaze steadily. Yes, I said no. Dominic stood abruptly, his movement causing his chocolate milk to tip over, spilling across Miguel's tray and lap. Oops, he said without a hint of remorse. Looks like you had an accident. How embarrassing. Laughter rippled through the nearby tables as Miguel sat there, chocolate milk soaking into his khaki uniform pants. The cold liquid seeped through to his skin, but it was nothing compared to the heat rising in his chest. Not here. Not now. Too many witnesses. Miguel stood, gathered his ruined lunch and walked calmly to the trash cans. He could feel eyes on him as he tried to dab at his wet pants with napkins. Need a diaper change? Someone called out, triggering another wave of laughter. Miguel left the cafeteria, heading for the bathroom to clean up as best he could. As he pushed open the door, he didn't notice Tyler following him until it was too late. Dominic doesn't like being told no, Tyler said, blocking the bathroom exit, especially not by pudgy little nobodies. Miguel turned his back on Tyler, focusing on wetting paper towels to dab at his pants. In the mirror, he could see Tyler approaching, and every muscle in his body tensed ready, but Tyler just leaned against the sink next to him. Tomorrow, bring $20 or things get worse. With that, he sauntered out. Miguel stared at his reflection, the damp pants, the flushed face, the eyes that held more fire than anyone at Westridge had yet seen. Not tomorrow, he promised himself, but soon. The days fell into a pattern. Dominic and his friends escalated their torment incrementally. A shove in the hallway, a foot stuck out to trip him in gym class, books knocked from his hands, food stolen from his tray. Miguel endured it all with a restraint that was beginning to fray at the edges. During gym class the following week, things reached a new level. Coach Brenner had the class running laps around the track, and Miguel was keeping pace in the middle of the pack when Dominic and Tyler came up on either side of him. Surprised you can run at all, Pudge, Dominic said, not even winded. Thought those little legs would give out by now. Miguel said nothing, focusing on his breathing. In truth, his endurance was excellent, part of his training regimen, but he had been deliberately holding back, staying in the middle of the group. Not talking again, maybe you need motivation. Before Miguel could react, Dominic's foot hooked around his ankle. Miguel went down hard, skidding on the track surface. Pain flared across his palms and knees as skin met asphalt. Coach Brenner blew his whistle from across the field. Alvarez, stop lazing around and get up! Laughter surrounded him as Miguel pushed himself to his feet, blood welling from his scraped knees and palms. Dominic and Tyler had already jogged ahead, exchanging a fist bump. In the locker room after class, Miguel was changing quietly in the corner, trying to be invisible, when he felt a presence behind him. He turned to find himself surrounded by Dominic, Tyler, and Marcus all grinning. "Show's over, boys," Marcus called out, and several other students quickly finished changing and filed out, leaving the four of them practically alone. Not good, Miguel thought, calculating his options. The teacher had already left for his office. The exit was blocked. There were three of them, larger but untrained. In a fair fight, he knew he could take them, but his mother's words echoed. "No fights. We need this fresh start. You've been holding out on us," Dominic said, stepping closer. "We said $20. It's been a week." "I don't have it," Miguel replied truthfully. His mother's budget was tight after the move. Wrong answer. Dominic nodded to the others. Before Miguel could react, Marcus grabbed his arms from behind. Miguel instinctively began to counter, to use Marcus's weight against him, but stopped himself. "Not here. Not yet. Let's help our friend learn the rules," Dominic said, his smile predatory. What happened next was quick, but felt eternal to Miguel. With Marcus holding his arms, Dominic reached around and grabbed the waistband of Miguel's underwear, yanking it up with brutal force. Pain shot through him as the fabric dug into his skin. Classic wedgie for the new kid. Tyler laughed, pulling out his phone to record. The humiliation burned hotter than the pain as Dominic continued pulling, lifting Miguel partly off his feet. Around him, the few remaining students either laughed or looked away uncomfortably. "Say cheese for Tyler's Snapchat, Pudge," Dominic taunted, giving another vicious pull that made Miguel gasp. Something snapped inside Miguel then, not his underwear, but his resolve to remain passive. Images flashed through his mind. His mother's tired face after double shifts, her hope for their new life, her plea for peace. But alongside them came his uncle's voice. "Sometimes you must defend yourself. Respect is earned, not given." With a fluid movement that caught everyone by surprise, Miguel dropped his weight, creating slack in Marcus's grip. Before the larger boy could adjust, Miguel had executed a perfect sweep, sending Marcus crashing to the floor. In the same motion, he spun to face Dominic, who still had hold of his underwear. The look of shock on Dominic's face lasted only a second before Miguel struck, not with a fist but with a precise grappling move that sent Dominic stumbling backward into the lockers with a resounding crash. Tyler, still holding his phone, stood, frozen in disbelief. "What the?" he began, but Miguel was already moving. With speed and precision that spoke of years of training, Miguel closed the distance between them. One moment Tyler was standing, phone in hand. The next, he was on his back, staring up at the ceiling, the wind knocked out of him. The locker room had gone completely silent. Marcus was still on the floor. Dominic was pressed against the lockers and Tyler was gasping for breath. In the center stood Miguel, his posture completely transformed. Gone was the hunched, avoidant stance. Now he stood tall, balanced, his movements controlled and deliberate. "I didn't want trouble," Miguel said, his voice steady. "I still don't, but this ends now." Dominic, regaining his composure, pushed away from the lockers. "You're dead, Alvarez, you hear me? Dead!" he charged, forward, fists raised. Miguel sidestepped easily, using Dominic's momentum to guide him past and into another locker with a clang. "I've trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since I was 8, Miguel said calmly, as Dominic turned, fury in his eyes. "I'm a junior state champion. I could have ended this the first day, but I promised my mom I wouldn't fight." Marcus had gotten to his feet and was eyeing the exit. "But a promise not to fight doesn't mean I have to let you hurt me," Miguel continued. "It doesn't mean I have to be your victim." Tyler had managed to sit up, still clutching his phone. "Dude, Dominic, maybe we should—" "Shut up!" Dominic snapped, his face red with humiliation. 3 against 1. "We can take him." Miguel shook his head. "No, you can't." It wasn't a boast. It was a simple statement of fact. As if to prove his point, when Marcus made a move toward him, Miguel executed a perfect takedown, controlling him to the ground without actually hurting him. He could have applied any number of painful submissions, but instead simply held Marcus immobile for a moment before releasing him. "I don't want to fight you," Miguel repeated. "Any of you, but I will defend myself." Dominic, seeing Marcus so easily neutralized, finally seemed to grasp the reality of the situation. His bravado faltered. The locker room door opened and Coach Brenner stepped in, surveying the scene with narrowed eyes. "What's going on in here?" Everyone froze. Miguel straightened up, preparing for the inevitable consequences. But before anyone could speak, Tyler's phone chimed loudly in his hand. The coach's attention zeroed in on it. "Reed, were you recording in my locker room?" Coach Brenner's voice was dangerous. "Hand it over, now." Tyler reluctantly gave up his phone. Coach Brenner's face darkened as he watched whatever was on the screen. "Chase, Reed, Evans, my office, now." His tone left no room for argument. "Alvarez, are you hurt?" Miguel adjusted his gym shorts, the aftermath of the wedgie still uncomfortably present. "I'm fine, Coach. Office, all of you." Coach Brenner held the door open, his expression thunderous. As they filed out, Miguel caught snippets of whispered conversations from students who had gathered in the hall, drawn by the commotion. "Did you see that? He took all 3 of them down. Been training for years. Junior champion or something." Word was already spreading. In the principal's office, Tyler's video told the story that Miguel's words might not have. It showed the unprovoked attack, the wedgie, and Miguel's astonishingly controlled defensive response. Principal Whitaker's face grew increasingly grave as he watched. "This is completely unacceptable," he said when the video ended. "Chase, Reed, Evans, 2 weeks suspension effective immediately, and you'll be barred from the upcoming basketball tournament." Dominic's face went white. "But Coach, we're starters. The team, Coach Brenner interrupted, needs players who don't assault their classmates. You're lucky Mr. Alvarez didn't press charges." Miguel remained quiet through most of the meeting, speaking only when directly addressed. Yes, this had been going on since he arrived. No, he hadn't reported it. Yes, Today was the first time he had defended himself. When asked why he hadn't fought back earlier, Miguel hesitated before answering, "My mum wanted a fresh start here. I promised her no trouble." Principal Whitaker's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Alvarez, defending yourself isn't trouble. It's your right. But next time, please come to us first." Miguel nodded, though they both knew the reality. Reporting rarely stopped bullying. Sometimes you had to show your strength. As they left the office, Dominic glared at Miguel. "This isn't over," he muttered, but the threat sounded hollow now. Miguel met his gaze steadily. "Yes, it is." The next day at school, everything had changed. As Miguel walked through the hallways, he noticed the difference immediately. Students who had previously ignored him now nodded in greeting. Some even smiled or offered a hey as he passed. The wide berth people gave him wasn't out of avoidance but respect. In the cafeteria, he was sitting alone as usual when a tray clattered down across from him. It was the girl with braids and glasses who had noticed the bullying before. "Mind if I sit here?" she asked, already settling in. "I'm Lisa, by the way." "Miguel?" "Oh, I know," she said with a small smile. "Everyone knows now. That video got around before they made Tyler delete it." Miguel groaned. "Great. Hey, it's not a bad thing. Those guys have been terrorizing half the school for years." Lisa leaned forward. "So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, huh? That's badass." Before Miguel could respond, another tray appeared, followed by another. Soon, his formerly empty table was full of students introducing themselves, asking questions about his training, sharing their own stories of encounters with Dominic and his friends. "I heard you're a state champion," a boy named Jason asked eagerly. "Junior division, yeah," Miguel admitted, "back in my old town." "That's amazing," Lisa said. "We have a martial arts club here, but it's mostly just a few kids who've watched too many kung fu movies. You should come show them some real moves." The invitation startled him. In his old school, his training had been part of his identity from the beginning. Here, he had hidden it, trying to blend in. Now, though, "Maybe I will," he said, surprising himself with how good it felt to be seen for who he really was. The following week brought another change. As Miguel was heading to math class, he spotted Dominic in the hallway, alone, without his usual entourage. Their eyes met briefly before Dominic looked away, changing direction to avoid passing close to Miguel. It wasn't fear exactly, but a new wariness. The hierarchy had shifted and everyone knew it. After school that day, Miguel found Coach Brenner waiting for him outside his last class. "Got a minute, Alvarez?" Miguel nodded, following the coach to his office. "I've been thinking," Coach Brenner said once they were seated. "That was some impressive control you showed in the locker room. Most kids would have just started swinging." Miguel shrugged. "My uncle always says that the goal isn't to hurt your opponent, but to control the situation." "Smart man, your uncle." Coach leaned back in his chair. "We have a wrestling team that could use someone with your skills, and I hear the martial arts club would love to have you demonstrate some techniques." Miguel hesitated. "I promised my mum." "I spoke with your mother yesterday," Coach interrupted. "Explained the situation. She's proud of how you handled yourself, and she agrees that channeling your skills through school programs would be a positive step." Something warm bloomed in Miguel's chest. "She said that?" Coach nodded. "She did. Said something about how keeping your light hidden doesn't serve anyone." He leaned forward. "Think about it, Alvarez. You've got a gift. Might as well use it for something good." That evening, Miguel told his mother everything: the bullying, the wedgie, the fight, the aftermath. She listened without interrupting, her eyes growing sad but not angry. "I'm sorry, Miguel," she said when he finished. "I asked too much of you. I wanted so badly for this move to be a clean slate that I didn't consider what you might face." "It's okay, Mom." She shook her head. "No, it's not. I wanted to protect you, but I ended up making you hide who you are." She took his hand. "Your uncle always said you were his star pupil because you understood that strength isn't about domination. It's about protection. I forgot that for a while." Miguel squeezed her hand. "Coach Brenner mentioned the wrestling team." Her smile was answer enough. 2 months later, Westridge High School hosted its first ever Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu exhibition, organized by the newly energized Martial Arts Club, now led by student instructor Miguel Alvarez. The gym was packed with curious students and parents, watching as Miguel demonstrated techniques with his new friends from the club. In the front row sat his mother and Uncle Carlos, who had driven 3 hours to be there. Uncle Carlos beamed with pride as Miguel expertly guided his partners through moves, his instruction clear and patient. From his elevated position on the mat, Miguel could see the whole audience, including 3 figures at the very back of the gym. Dominic, Tyler, and Marcus stood watching, their expressions a mixture of lingering resentment and reluctant interest. After the demonstration, as people were filing out, Miguel approached them. The beginner class starts next Tuesday, he said, simply. Anyone can join. Tyler and Marcus exchanged glances. Dominic stared at Miguel for a long moment before speaking. Would we have to call you sensei or something? There was still an edge to his voice, but something else too. A hint of respect, perhaps. Miguel shook his head. Just Miguel. Everyone starts as a white belt. Even me once. He walked away then, leaving the invitation open. Whether they took it or not was up to them. But as he rejoined his mother and uncle, surrounded by his new friends, Miguel realized something important. True strength wasn't in hiding who you were, nor was it in dominating others. It was in standing tall as your authentic self and creating a space where others could do the same. Ready to go, champion? His mother asked, slinging an arm around his shoulders. Miguel looked back at the gym, at the school that had transformed from a place of torment to a place of possibility in just a few short weeks. Yeah, he said with a smile. I'm ready.